So welcome back, and today I'll be talking about the histogram and how it can improve your photography. So what is the histogram and how can it help you? It's a graphical illustration of the tonal range in your photo. Now, to put it simply, it just gives you the information about the dark tones, mid-tones and highlights in your photo. And some cameras can display this in live view, or you can view it when you review your photo on your camera, and you just press the info button and it will just toggle to the point you see the display and this histogram. So on this camera, I've got a live view of the histogram, and when I move something in front of the lens, you can start to see the change when I move something dark. If you can see that, you can see it move and then change again. That's basically measuring the tonal values in your frame. So I'm just bringing an example of a blank histogram. So on your left hand side here you have 0, which is completely black. Then you have a section of shadows. Then you have your mid-tones. Then you have your highlights, and then your whites, which is 10 on the scale. On the upward level, that just represents the volume of tones in any of these sections. That's it on the histogram. It's a basic idea of the histogram and how you can use it to improve your exposure and your dynamic range. So here's an example of a correctly exposed image represented in your histogram. From the left hand side you can see you've got very little shadows, and it goes nicely up into the mid-tones and then back down again. That would be deemed a correctly exposed image represented in your histogram. And then here, another one. Here's an example of a poorly exposed image that's underexposed. On your left hand side you see it come down and then it goes and it's all pushed to the left hand side, and it's clipping the edge where you've got no detail in your shadows, completely underexposed. And then the next one, it will be overexposed, this example, and it's pushing the side and down, and you've got no other detail in any other of the sections, and it's clipping the right hand side, and this is deemed to be overexposed. But nothing's ever perfect or uniform in nature, and if you're doing landscape photography, you're going to have a balance or a ratio, maybe more highlights or maybe more dark tones in your framing, and the histogram will represent that. So from this example here you can see that the tonal value is just gradually creeping up and it's pushing slightly to the left. So here is the image, and you can see that you've got more dark tones than you have highlights, and the histogram represents that. So here's an example of a white object on a white background, and you can see it's all white. You can see the difference between the object and the white background. Then you can see the histogram here where the tonal values are pushed to the right hand side. And that's just basically representing what you see on the image. So when you're taking your shot and you're framing your shot, you're just best to do just assess the environment you're in, just look at the light around you, see what the values are, see whether you're in a dark or light area, then reference your histogram and your light meter on your camera and work with those three elements: what you see, histogram and light meter. Don't rely on your viewfinder, because that might misrepresent what the camera's going to record. So next I'll show you how you can use the histogram to guide you when you're post-editing your photos. I took this photo the other week, and I'll just illustrate how you can use the histogram to post-edit your photos. I use Lightroom. You may have different software, but they'll all have a histogram that you can use. So I'm going to start off with the shadows and lift them up. You can see it's quite flat at the moment. That's because I shot in RAW format in the camera, which retains all the data, which goes onto the centre of the camera. When you shoot in JPEG, it doesn't record as much data as the RAW file, but you can do a lot more with a RAW file in post-edit than you can do with a JPEG. You can put it around a lot more. I'm just going to lift up the texture, the clarity, look at a bit of dehaze. You can see the photo start to change a little. Then I'll get onto a nice powerful tool called the tone curve, which will really lift everything up and really make a change. You can see things change now. See the histogram moved more to the centre because I lifted up the highlights, but it's blowing out a little bit more of this. You want to bring down to get some bit more contrast in the photo. or there. Dump the reds and bring some, just making the changes to bring out some colour. You can see how amazing this tool is. You can see it change slightly and give it some. You can use a histogram to help you manipulate your photo to your own style as well. This tone curve is a great tool to do that as well. I won't go into the colour grading, so I'm just doing a quick edit. Each slider you use, the clarity, you see it's all changing slightly. That's just a quick edit, and you can see that now the difference is there. You toggle on and off, you can see quite a difference in the photo. There's a lot more work to be done on this photo, but that's just a quick example of how you can use the histogram to help you with your post-editing and prevent you from going, saying, blowing out your whites up too much. You can see these going red. That's just illustrating that you're now clipping this edge here and you've gone too far. Issues, and if you say lift the blacks down, you can say starting blue. So it's all lifting there, and you've got blue areas here. This is just telling you you're losing detail in these areas. That's the benefit of the histogram. But this is just to illustrate what you can do with a histogram. So I hope this helps you with your photography. Hit the subscribe button, press the like and ring that bell for the next notification, where I'll be talking about the focal length. So you have a good week and take care.